Anita, how's your mental health?
Questionable at all times. You know this.
Yeah, how's the mental health of your children?
Also a little bit tricky. Can I tell you my experience in trying to find therapists for myself and my kids, Mel?
Yes, please.
Okay, this is how it goes. You ask around your friends and your family for a referral for somebody who's nearby. You finally find somebody who sounds like they might work for your family. You give them a call and you find out that A, they're not accepting new patients, or B, they have a huge wait list. So you start over again and you ask people if they know anybody who would be a good therapist and a good fit. Finally, you find one, you go and you meet with them and you figure out that you don't actually like them that much. But it's been so much work to find somebody who you can go to in your area that you're kind of stuck with them. Well, do you have any ideas for how to get around this?
I do because guess what? I've actually had some therapists that I have found on my own, which involves what you're saying. Sometimes I remember one time I was like 3 hours in the bathtub on my phone looking
Yeah.
through websites. I was such a prune at the end. But I have also had the experience with working with BetterHelp. And it was like, I don't want to say too good to be true, but because it is true, but it's like amazing because I was matched with my therapist within 24 hours.
And you didn't have to go through all of that other ridiculous process of trying to find somebody. And here's the cool thing too, is if that person didn't work out for you, you can just switch and say, and it's not like you're committing to another years long search for somebody who you're going to jive with.
It's true. And I lucked out, or maybe just BetterHelp is really good at matching people together because I never had to change my therapist. I loved her. Perfect fit for me. And I know that some of our friends have used BetterHelp and they've had to change therapists, and boom, same day, you can change.
Easy peasy.
You can ghost your therapist. Get a new one.
I love this idea. BetterHelp is one of our sponsors. If you use our promo code trybetterhelp.com/WWDN, you get 10% off your first month. And we totally recommend it.
Yes, get some therapy. That's trybetterhelp.com/WWDN.
Is it close to what you want it to be? Is it on the same?
I think it's going to be.
Great.
It's a prototype.
Guys, the worlds have collided. Mel has asked my dad to make something for her, and I do not think she realizes what she's gotten herself into.
Oh, well, listen, Mr. Randy Randall and I have been scheming all week long, and he's made a prototype.
Mm-hmm.
And tomorrow I have an assignment to go to the metal store to get some things.
There's a metal store?
Yeah, he already called ahead a bunch of places and figured out the price.
Okay.
And told me where to go, and then told me what to ask and how many to get. And then he told me to measure my car to see if everything could fit in my car.
Important question.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have to measure any angles?
Yes. Okay. So everybody, here's what's happening. Anita's dad is going to help me. Well, he's going to make it. But since I'm in on the scheme, I'm including myself. He's making me a skate rail that also has an angle that comes up from it. So you can slide onto it instead of having to jump onto it because I don't have those skills yet. And then I was like, oh, it would be so cool if there was an angle that came up onto the rail and then the rail and then an angle that goes down. But then when I get better, I can detach the down rail. And he's like, I can do that.
Mm.
And then he showed me how he was going to do it and the names. And I don't know what he was saying. I just kept saying, yeah, that's awesome. Okay.
That's great. That's great. Okay, well, can't wait to see how that turns out. Good luck there.
He sent me to the skate park with 3 things: tape measure, an angle measurer tool,
Mm-hmm.
and another angle measurer tool that looks like it's from the Stone Age that also looks like a knife. So when I pulled it out, people at the skate park were like, what is that? Are you going to stab me?
You're like, no, it's just for the angles, baby. I'm just here for the angles. All right.
So I'll keep you all posted.
Otherwise, it's Valentine's Day this week. Our thoughts and prayers go out to all of you.
Yep.
As you make your way through it. Mel, you're going to leave to go to Hawaii. That's how you're dealing.
Mm-hmm.
I ate a whole bag of conversation hearts. That's how I'm dealing. Now I need to go get more. They're not even good.
They're so gross. That's how much it is reflecting in your mental state, I guess.
Yeah, but I do really like sugar, but they're not that good. Anyway, so good luck this week, guys.
Yeah, if it's a kind of neutral week and you guys didn't really care about Valentine's Day, hopefully it's okay for you. If it is sucky, we feel you.
Also, it's the Super Bowl today, Mel. Did you even know that?
No. I've been busy at your dad's house, and then he has me come down like 3 times a day to show me things.
Yeah, remember, Mel lives like 5 houses away from my parents, so that's why this relationship is happening. Yeah, it's the Super Bowl tonight, and for some people, it's like not even a thing at all. Like you didn't even know it was a Super Bowl. For some people, it's a big deal to be missing their person who cared about the Super Bowl, or the person that they watched the Super Bowl or partied. So I hope that you guys get some hot wings, even if you're missing your person. And if you like want to opt out of the Super Bowl, do that too. I mean, it's going to be over by the time this comes out.
Yeah,
but
that's true. Hopefully you did not get hot diarrhea from your hot wings if you watched it. And if you cried, hopefully you have made it through. Did you and Jason watch the Super Bowl? What was that about for you?
We always would go to like our friend's house and watch the Super Bowl. And if for me, it was just about like hanging out with people and eating food. And he cared about the football, like he would watch. And the Eagles, his family is from Philadelphia. So that's who's in there. But he was always a Steelers fan, which was like, he was kind of the outcast of his family. Anyway.
Oh, the steel. Steel is what the
metal
steel,
you need?
Yes. It's called Wasatch Steel.
Oh, gosh.
Your dad sent me to. Sorry. Back to you.
Anyway, so it's not like I'm not like emotionally attached to the Super Bowl. So whatever. I do like food, but it's fine.
Can we please tell everybody that there are 2 miracles, amazing things that happened this week?
Oh, yeah.
Number
I was like,
one,
what are they?
Number 1, guess who went skiing with me? Guess.
I think her name is Anita.
Yep.
We did it.
Yep. And thoughts?
It was fun. I had a good time. Mel's been trying to get me to go skiing with her for a long time. And last year when her dad died, that kind of put a damper on some of the plans. But this year I'm not good at like planning things in advance. So she texted me in the morning and I was like, let's do it right now. And so we did. Got a babysitter and we went up and we hit the slopes.
Wednesday was a good day.
Yeah. I had fun.
Anita did a great job, everybody. She has great turns. She's a good athlete. She couldn't see anything because it was terrible conditions and she didn't even know. So she had more fun than I did.
Also, I borrowed some goggles from the Lost and Found that like were all scratched up and probably from like 1965. So that didn't help the vision, but it was still fun.
Yes. So that's miracle number 1. Miracle number 2, there's been a Sasquatch sighting.
Yes,
you guys, my life is complete. Take it away, Anita.
Here's the story. So I was on our city's Facebook page. I was just scrolling Facebook, and in our city, somebody posted in our like city Facebook page that there had been a Sasquatch sighting. And immediately Jason loved Sasquatch. Like he was a total believer. And Mel also loves Sasquatch. So I like watched the video, and then to make it even better, so there's a video of something on the mountains up above my house, like moving through, they say it's like 96 inches of snow, which is a lot of snow, like incredibly fast.
Yes.
Anyway, so then there's this guy in our city who everybody kind of hates.
Wait, is it the guy that built the house that's like the famous person?
Yes. Oh. And he has a helicopter and he flies his helicopter over the city and it bothers everybody because it's like a small city. And they're like, why do you have a helicopter? And he's like, because I'm rich and I can have a helicopter. So he went out and he found tracks in the snow. And so immediately I sent it all to Mel, who was eating it up. And she was like, praise be, this is the best day of my life.
Of course, I sent it immediately to everybody in my life, which is like 3 or 4 people.
The funny thing is that there's like 2 reactions, right? People are like, it's an elk. Like clearly it's just like a moose. Clearly it's this. Clearly that's not even the mountain they say it is. Those are snowshoe tracks, right? Like immediate like dismissal. And my reaction is like, this is so fun.
Me
right?
too.
Like, I don't care if it's real or not. It's fun. But some people are like, can't live with the like maybe of it.
I think it's so much fun. Like, who cares if it's fake? It's amazing. And if it's real, even more amazing.
Better.
Like, now the mystery has gone through Farmington, Utah into my town of Centerville, Utah, because it was traveling south, right?
I mean, yeah, apparently.
Okay, hopefully the Sasquatch skates and will come and visit me. Will skate my ramp with me. Well, the video that you sent that's on YouTube, it looks all crazy and like almost, they all look animated and weird. But then the one of the guy in the helicopter and the footprints, that's like, okay, that was amazing. So I don't know. Who knows? Who cares? I think it's so fun.
The worst part is I was like, Jason would love this. And I need to tell him, I need to be like, dude, Sasquatch is right there. And I can't. So then I'm like, maybe he is Sasquatch now.
I was just going to say, I hate to break it to you, and we have to end the podcast now because Jason's not actually dead. He has just turned into Sasquatch. And we've been hiding the secret from you for all this time.
And he's actually alive.
And that was his way of making himself known to you. He just has duties. Like, he has to go save the world.
Mel, that's so weird that you said that, because I was watching some show where like the dead husband comes back alive. And I was like thinking through that. I was like, what if? And then I was like, no, Anita, you saw his body. Like, he is dead. Like, even though I know that, I was still having like that thought, like, what if he like showed up and was like, I'm actually a CIA agent and I'm not actually dead. And I've been in a prisoner of war camp for,
Isn't that kind of how Manifest is? The show Manifest?
I don't know. I don't know what that is.
Oh, maybe you should watch it.
Maybe.
See what you think. Except for, how would you feel if that happened? I think we've talked about this before, but like, who cares? We don't remember things. What if Jason did come back?
So happy. I'd be like, you stay here. I'm going to go somewhere else for like 3 weeks and you just take care of the kids. And then when I'm done, I'll come back and then we can build our life back together. But I think we can deal with 3 more weeks alone if you'll just take care of them. Thanks. Bye. That's how I would be.
Yeah, I can see that would happen. That's what I would have predicted.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would think. I'd be like, are you on board with this version of me? Because this is how it is.
Yeah.
If you're cool with it, let's go have adventures. If you're not, I understand. Also, I don't know. It would just be super weird.
Yeah, super weird. Speaking of my kids, I'm feeling very upset. And I am like so tired of having to make everything happen. Last night, I was like, after we did our Valentine's Zoom last night, we had a great time. As soon as we get done, I'm like, you put your pajamas on. You stop hitting him. You, remember I said, put your pajamas on. You, get in the shower. I asked you to get in the shower. You, stop throwing that thing. You, go get in the shower. You, stop throwing that thing. I asked you to get your pajamas on.
Okay, it's stressful. Stop. Stop it.
And I was like, this is like all of the time. Oh, it's just really,
well,
I want to punch somebody.
Once Jason gets through Centerville and Bountiful and Salt Lake, he'll come back up to Farmington. You can leave for 3 weeks.
Yes. Okay. That sounds great.
I'm really sorry that you are a solo parent because I think it sucks. It also is impeding all of my fun because like we cannot go skiing tomorrow because you have a freaking dentist appointment with them. Like they don't need teeth, or maybe they do.
I think they do. Yeah. And it's not like I can just reschedule them because you have to wait like 8 months to get an appointment. So
everybody send Anita all of your vibes, all of the good kinds.
And conversation hearts, because I ate all of them.
Yeah, you can just send them all to her. She needs them more than I do.
So gross.
I hope that you can survive the next hour and then all the hours after that.
Okay, have fun in Hawaii. I won't see you for like 2 weeks. Bye.
Well, you will, because we have an episode next week. We will be doing the same blah.
Okay,
although
cool.
From Hawaii. Yeah.
If you guys want to keep this nonsense going, go join our Patreon.
Maybe they don't.
Maybe they don't. Maybe we don't. It's patreon.com/WWDN. It's just a way to support the podcast and to keep the good work or the mediocre work going.
Or just, shenanigans about Sasquatch.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so we have 4 tiers. They all include different things, but the $10 tier and above includes ad-free content and shout outs in episode. Patreon.com/WWDN. We're going to do our shout out right now. Sorry, Anita is too mad at her children to have them help with the shout out today, so it's just going to be us.
Yep. Okay, we're going to start with our secret dead husband, and this is the song that comes to mind. 16 tons, and what do you get? Another sad widow and deeper in debt.
Oh, how true. It's so true. Constance.
David.
Don Satterwhite.
Emily Wesenberg.
Evelyn Flores.
Gail Bell.
Heather Mullins.
Ivan the Misner.
Kat.
Chris DeWaite.
Maya Glasser.
Neil Hooper.
Becky Ziba.
Sam Finlayson.
Karen Cornejo.
Alexis King Adello.
Amber Alanis Vela.
Amy Hartman Martell.
Amy Neal.
Ashley Hahn.
Barbara Schneeberger.
Berkeley.
Ooh, Brandy Younger.
Brittany Pedro.
Chris Steffen.
Cindy Wilkerson.
Connie Remich.
Danielle Catterberg.
Not a Debbie Downer.
Dennis Brazo.
Jean Marie Massey.
Jen O'Brien.
Jenny Taylor.
Jennifer Beal.
Jennifer Brown.
Jesse Johnson.
Carol Schultz.
Laura Aguirre Penner.
Leah Johnston.
Lisa Hardman Powell.
Lou Clausen.
Marie Hoffman.
MK Anderson, that does not have blue hair, but we know looks good in blue hair.
Meg Murto.
Patricia Weist.
Rachel Barbosa.
Sarah Morris.
Simone Fu.
Sunshine Haven.
Alicia McAllister.
Amy Burke.
Ann Drennan.
Anna Tracy.
Audrey Henniger.
Serena Bohr. Her episode is right now.
Christina Scambato.
Christine Anderson.
Cindy Raynaud.
Don Barber.
Debbie Fells.
Deborah Westwood.
Diana Becker.
Doris Rachel. Right?
Doris Reichel. Doris Reichel.
Wait, like chill? Like we're chilling?
Yes.
Really?
Oh, one day we're going to get it. Doris.
Hey, Doris, you should call us or send us a voice memo. Eileen Stevens Dem.
Emily Toledo.
Eric Vandermeulen. Yeah, skating!
Aaron Posick.
Gabe Lozano.
Gia Benoit.
Gina Haas.
Ian Cini.
Ileana Bell.
Jackie.
Nancy Lee. I'm just kidding. Jan Colarusso Seeley.
My mom.
Another secret patron.
Jennifer Davis.
Jenny Armstrong.
Jennifer Sanders.
Jenny?
What?
Wait, welcome. Jenny Barrow.
Jenny Dippold.
Yes. At JesusJocelyn.com.
Johnny Walker.
Judy Malkin.
Julie Stevenson.
Karen Ochoa.
Karina Jacobo.
Kathy Murray.
Katie Getz.
Katie Radcliffe.
Harris Cara.
Kevin Ferry.
Chris Morgan.
Laura Keeley.
Lauren Old.
Cool new hair, by the way.
Yeah.
Linda. Oh, yes. Our friend Linda. Welcome.
Lindsay Kanopka.
Marjorie Lewis.
Marianne Hammond. In Oaxaca.
Happy birthday. Marianne McDonald.
Mary McGowan.
Melissa Bowers.
Melissa Hancock.
Naomi Brown.
Rachel.
And then Rachel Tang.
Rebecca Olemaker.
Robin Flam.
Stacy Sayward.
Tammy Teravist.
Tara Wallace.
Trenton Thompson.
Sometimes I want to say that. Tara Wallace. Okay. Val Becker.
And genealogy all the way back to Adam. Just kidding. Wendy.
Thank you, everybody who supports us on Patreon. And thank you for sitting through our ridiculous reading of names. And please tell us if we're saying your name wrong.
Yeah.
And we'll try better.
Or if you have fast forward, good job. Hey, just an FYI, everyone, this next episode deals with a lot of heavy topics like drug use. So prepare yourselves. Take care. If this is not something that you feel like you can listen to right now, we totally get it. But it's also a really, really, really good interview. And Cerina's amazing. And the information is really helpful.
It's really important. That's
I know.
The thing. I wish we didn't have to have these conversations, but it's like eye-opening and needs to be talked about. So
yes,
we hope you guys enjoy or at least learn something from the episode.
And also, I forgot that you could buy us tacos if you want. Sorry, out of order. buymeacoffee.com/whatdowedonownow
Or if you don't want to do that, give us a 5-star rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. It really does help you guys. All right, let's get to it. I'm Anita.
I'm Mel.
We're two young widows hoping to see Sasquatch, and we're just trying to figure out, widow,
We
do
now. This episode is sponsored by the Misner Family Foundation in memory of Elisabeth Misner.
Sometimes we assume that unless we had a huge life insurance payout, we don't really need to know anything about investments or even finances. But guess what? A little knowledge of finances is critical for all of us. Maybe your partner was in charge of that stuff, and now you find yourself making all the decisions. Maybe you're mad about that. Maybe I am. Nicole from the He's Gone But the Money's Not podcast is here to help. She tackles financial literacy by telling the stories of women and widows and finance experts, and shares the lessons they've learned as certified financial planners. Whether you know a lot and feel confident in your financial decisions or feel unsure about all of that stuff, there is more to learn. Listen and subscribe to the He's Gone But the Money's Not podcast on all podcast platforms. This ad was paid for by Rockhouse Financial, an SEC registered investment advisor. Today is a day that needs to happen.
I'm really glad we're going to talk about the things we're going to talk about, even though they're sad and dumb and hard.
I know. I feel bad that we have to talk about this. I mean, that's kind of the whole premise of our entire podcast, but it's like some of this stuff just sucks. But here we are to talk about it.
And we're so glad that there is somebody willing to talk about it, because this topic can be something that people don't want to bring up. So Thank you to our guest, Cerina Boehrer.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Where do you live, Cerina? Where are you from?
I live in Ada, Oklahoma. I'm originally from California, but I've lived here long enough to just claim it. So
where in California?
Like Pasadena.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where's Ada?
So Ada is like southeastern Oklahoma. So it's like I'm like right between, like equal distance between Oklahoma City and like the Texas border.
Cerina, what do you do in your regular non-widow life? Is there such a thing? Like, I think it all goes together, but
yeah, it's like all like melted together now. But
yeah.
I have a 14-year-old daughter, and then I have a 19-year-old son, but he's out of the house and living on his own now. So that's been interesting. But so my 14-year-old homeschools, so I stay busy with that. And I think I'm about to go back to school and get my master's, maybe even my PhD. I don't know yet, but.
In what?
Well, I have a bachelor's in psychology. And so I'm thinking about getting my PhD in neuropsychology. So
yes.
That would be rad and so much work, but good job, you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
So we need to hear some of your story and your widowhood story, and then talk about the things. There's things.
There's lots of things.
Yeah. Tell us about your person.
So my person is Tyler, and we have a very interesting origin story. So Tyler was in the military. He was a combat engineer for the Army, a sapper. And he served in Iraq, in Baghdad, and he was medically retired. He'd gotten blown up a couple times, and no big deal.
No worries. Yeah.
I didn't understand like half of the words you just said too.
Yeah. What was that word that started with an
sapper? Sapper. Yeah, sapper. So it's like an elite combatant that they specialize in like clearing. Well, what he did was they cleared the roads for the Marines. And so they were like explosive. They're like specialized in explosive and disarming bombs and all that stuff like that.
So super safe job. Like
totally. It's no worries at all. Like at all. So it's kind of like that movie, The Hurt Jacket, or The Hurt Locker.
Yeah.
So basically that's, no big deal. But so that's what he did. And then he was medically retired for PTSD and TBI. In like 2010 is when he was retired. And then the VA had him on like just a litany of different prescriptions and narcotics. I mean, stuff that should not be taken together. That was like, he was on oxycodone, methadone, I think Percocets too, Xanax, Seroquel. Just,
oh my
it's
gosh,
ridiculous. So many. Yeah. So many. And now the VA is starting to lean more towards like alternative medicines. But back then They just threw medicine at you, So up until that point, he had never even like smoked a cigarette or done anything like that. So I think it was after his 21st birthday or a birthday, he went into his doctor's appointment and failed a UA for alcohol, and they took him off all his meds, all the narcotics, like all at once, cold turkey.
Wait, that's like not safe.
Right.
Why? What was wrong with this person, with this doctor?
I don't know. The VA is, it's so, they do so many good things, but it's just, they have a lot of protocols in place that are counterproductive at best.
Man.
So, yeah. So that led to him seeking out his prescription pills on the streets, which progressed later into a full-blown heroin addiction, amongst other things. So I'm also a recovering addict, and we met in the county jail.
In lockup.
Yeah. So we met on it's called the speaker box. Like every room has a little speaker. So we talked on that. Yeah. So yeah, it's funny when people ask us, oh, well, how did you guys meet? I'm like, do you want the real story or the story we tell our grandparents?
What do you tell your grandparents?
Yeah.
I think they know now, but at first we were just like, through friends. We met through friends.
Okay, I have this picture in my mind, like the old timey jail with like the bars, and they had the side with the men and the side with the women, and you were like sitting on the benches like next to each other, and you started talking, and then like you held hands through the bars. That's like what I have in my head. Don't tell me that I'm wrong, because I want to just remember it that way.
Okay, I won't tell you you're wrong.
But you can tell me like with the truth. I don't care.
She's like, no, you're wrong.
No, so there's like I was in a close spot. I was on my way actually to DOC, and so
wait, what's DOC?
Department of Corrections.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I did. I had to go to prison for 3 years and 5 days.
Whoa.
Yeah.
We need to do 2 podcasts because
I know,
like you are a survivor, my friend.
Right?
Yes.
And there's closed pods, and they have a speaker with a button on it that you can call like to the observation bubble where all the guards are. But if you don't push the button, people on a certain side of the hallway, you can hear each other. And so we just, for lack of anything else to do in there, you talk, and then you leave letters for each other in the rec yard and all that stuff. So it was like yeah. And it's much more glamorous because we were in Cleveland County, which is like Norman, Oklahoma. But in Oklahoma City County, they talk through the toilets. So it's way more glamorous than that.
This is the best. Okay.
I have to say, like the stories that I hear about like jail and prison, people are so inventive and creative. Unbelievable.
Like literally, like it's insane. Like, what do they say? Like necessity is the
mother
inventor
of all invention.
Yeah.
Have you listened to that podcast that like they make in some prison somewhere, and it's like the inmates have a podcast? It's like fascinating.
Really?
I'll have to find out what the name of it is.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and they do all of these crazy things, and it's cool.
And they haven't gotten caught, or are they allowed to do it?
No, they're allowed to do it. It's
okay.
It's like a program that they're doing. Yeah.
That's good. That's great. They need more programs like that. They really do, because there's a lot of people with a lot of time on their hands in there, and like, idle hands. So
I thought that they recorded it through the toilet, but that's just me.
No, but that's actually what reminded me. They did like a project. I don't know if project's the right word, where they tried to pass a burrito from one cell to another through the toilet.
They can do that. They pass Snickers bars.
What?
Yeah.
Yep. Letters, and then illegal stuff. And yeah, it's crazy. And then you have to hope somebody in between the floors doesn't steal your thing if it's not for you. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
I have one more question about like the shenanigans or whatever we are calling this. Did you make toilet wine?
No, not in county, but they don't really make it in toilets. They make them in trash bags.
How does it work?
So I think it's just like the basics of like creating alcohol with like fermented fruit and like yeast and sugar.
We've taken a solid.
This has gone all
here.
Yeah, and you have to hide it and then you have to burp it. Like you have to let the gases out, and you have to let it, because you have to hold on to it for a long time. So it's very like high risk, because if they smell it, it's like a big deal.
High risk, low reward.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So Cerina, you have been through some things, and so had your person. And then where did it go from there?
So I was already on my way to prison, and I think he ended up serving like 10 months in there. And then while I was in prison, he in and out of rehab facilities, in and out of like veteran programs, diversion programs, stuff like that. And then, so when I got to a lower security facility about almost, towards the last 6 months of my sentence, we had access to cell phones. We had jobs outside of the facility and stuff like that. So I, got on my Facebook for the first time in 3 years almost, and there he was. So, and I messaged him, and I think he's adopted. So his birth mother called me and told me that he was currently in another jail. And then like a couple weeks, like maybe like 5 days later, he called me and he was out to go to his mom's funeral because his birth mother had died of an overdose.
Oh gosh.
So when he was incarcerated, was it because of drugs and possession and stuff like that?
It all boils down to drug use, like things you do for drugs or to get drugs or because of drugs, or decisions you make when you're under the influence of drugs. So even if it wasn't an actual drug charge, it was something that was, directly related to his drug use. So
okay.
Same as me. That's why I was in there as well. I had been sober for almost the whole time I was in prison, and I had the opportunity to work on stuff and work on my addictions and stuff like that. So I told him when I got out, I was like, well, if you want to leave all that behind and start fresh, then let's do it, And so he got out, I got out, and then on an ankle monitor. And then he came like 2 weeks later, and my uncle went and picked him up from Oklahoma City and drove him down here. And all he had was like the clothes on his back and like a little pack of paper. And the first time he walked into my house was the first time I ever actually laid eyes on him, like in person. And then 90 days later, we were married.
Oh my gosh.
How long was it from when you first held hands through the jail cell to when you met?
So it was like almost exactly 3 years. So I got released 3 years and 5 days. That's how much time I did. And then so 2 weeks after that. So it was on Cinco de Mayo that he came. So like all of our special days are like related to some obscure holiday. And so like we have 2 anniversaries. Our wedding ceremony anniversary is on Veterans Day. The day we first met, like we're together in person, was Cinco de Mayo. Like, so there are all these like obscure holidays.
So how old were you guys when you married?
So I was 33, and so that he was 20. I'm 4 years older than him.
Okay.
So he was 29.
28.
Yeah, something like that.
And he was discharged from the military when he was 21?
Yeah, he signed up when he was still 17. Like I have the picture of him getting sworn in. I mean, he looks like a baby. Mm-hmm. He looks like a little baby. So yeah.
Tell us what you loved about him.
So he was super, super funny. He was so funny. We just called him Clown Boy. He was so funny, and he was so quick-witted. Like he would just like come up with stuff, and you're like, really? And he'd be like, oh yeah. And then you know what I mean? Like you'd almost believe him. And he was just so funny. Like, I think a good example of his humor was, I was using the restroom one time, and we had 3 dogs at the time. And you know how, I don't know if you guys have animals, but how they always just live to like, come in the bathroom with you and just like look at you. And so we had a bulldog and a pit bull and a yellow lab. And so here they come, like a little conga line, one comes in and just kind of like, hey mom, and looks, and then goes on. And then the pit bull comes and was like, hey mom, and then goes on, and here comes the yellow lab. And I'm like, geez. And then here comes Tyler on all fours right behind him, just then looks at me, dude. And I just died. He was just funny like that. He was just naturally funny. He was a wild man. He was definitely like always the life of the party. Like if you had met him, you'd remember him. Like if you'd met him once, you would remember him forever. So. And then his crystal blue eyes. He had these crystal, like baby blue, sparkling eyes. And that was probably my favorite part.
So you guys get together. You have been doing work to recover from your addiction, and you get married, and you tell him he needs to leave all that behind, right? Was he successful in leaving that all behind?
He was.
Beginning? Okay.
Mm-hmm. He was. We both did really, really well. He was in a community sentencing type program, and, and I participated with him a lot in that. And, we were doing like some kind of, my family does rental properties. So we did some like sober living houses. We were in church. Had started like a life group for recovering. We were called like the misfits, as people that were not typical, and so especially here in Oklahoma. And, so yeah, we did really well. And then they passed medical marijuana here. And if you asked him, that it saved his life like that. it was so important to him and it meant a lot to him. And then helping other veterans was a big part of our lives. And so we started our own medical marijuana grow. And that's what we did. And we worked together. We lived together. We worked together 24/7. So we were best friends. So that we did that for about 3 years. And then he got hurt. We were playing lacrosse with our CrossFit gym, and he tore his ACL and his meniscus, and I mean, just tore his knee to shreds. So he had to have surgery. And then he had also like maybe like a year after that, re-aggravated a shoulder injury that he got in Iraq. And they had to do a complete shoulder joint replacement. So he had a prosthetic shoulder joint, and the doctor said he was
that.
Yes, the doctor said he was the second person under the age of 45 that he'd ever done that surgery on.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So when that happened, both surgeries, they gave him opiate painkillers. And so I think that's when the second surgery, like he kind of made it through. It kind of got a little rocky. I think he maybe like relapsed a little bit after the first one, but then he got it back on track. And then the second one was just, I think that was the beginning of the eventual downfall, where he eventually started using heroin again and gambling a lot, like literally created this mountain of debt and because of gambling. And we lost our business. We lost business partnerships. It was really, the last year and a half was really, really rough. It was really rough.
So you are familiar with some of the ways that people can try and hide things from people. Yeah. So what was that like for you?
It was exhausting. So with the, addiction comes just lies. He lied about everything. Everything was, lied about where he was at, who he was with, what he was doing. And then also trying to keep everything together for everybody else, so no one else would know, or picking up, his slack with the business and stuff like that. And, it was always, I just took a sleeping pill, or I'm on this, or I'm just really tired, while he's like nodding out, with a cigarette in his hand or whatever, you know what I mean? And then when it got to a certain point where it's just like too obvious to lie about anymore. And I would find things like in the bathroom, or I'd hide it from him. And so he would have to ask me for it, like I'd see him like looking around, trying to be cool about it. And finally he'd have to be like, okay, like, where is it? And I'd be like, what are you talking about? And just the lies. It was just constant lies. And when it was kind of like, okay, I knew about it. I knew what was going on. I remember the first time he just like did it in front of me, like so nonchalantly. And I was like, what are you? And he was like, well, I thought you knew. And I was like, yeah, but I don't want to see it. Like, and it was just, and that's how it ended up doing, it's weird because, through my addiction, like it kind of gave me a peek into like what I put my family through, and being on the other end of it, loving someone that you can't really help. Like you can't love them into sobriety. You know what I mean? Like you can't, if love was enough, to save somebody, he'd still be here,
I'm wondering, and I think you might have kind of answered this question, but it's almost like, you should have known, right? Because you probably participated in some of those same behaviors.
Right.
But did you kind of like make yourself not believe it at first? And then at some point in time, you're like, okay, now I have to face it. Or were you like, I know what's going on from the get-go?
I knew what was going on from the get-go. Him not admitting it, like the buck kind of stops there. Like if they won't even admit to it, like you can't really go any further than that. But I would know that he was thinking about it. I could tell that he was, the idea was when he was still kind of like thinking about going or thinking about doing it or whatever, or was anticipating doing it. I could tell his behavior would change. Like we spent so much time together that like any slight deviation in his normal behavior, and I was all over it.
So you said it was about a year and a half where he was using again, and then take us through that year and a half.
So he got paid by the Department of Justice once a month, and he would, and I don't know why the gambling coincided so strongly with his heroin addiction, but I mean, if I had to say which one was worse, it was the gambling. Like if you can imagine someone's gambling addiction being worse than their heroin addiction, but it was definitely the case. We have rental properties that I have for my family. He tried to sell one of those behind my back. Yeah, it was, I mean, he siphoned money out of my credit cards using like, like Cash App type, things like Facebook, pay stuff. Or like he would like take pictures of my cards, and it was just like, I mean, he would sit in the casino the night he would get paid at midnight, and sometimes he wouldn't leave, and he would blow his entire month's paycheck in one sitting. It was horrible, month after month after month.
I have a question for you because I'm doing a master's of social work right now, and actually like this thing that I have to write about is why people relapse, and so I'm learning more about it. And so I have a question because I know that there is a lot of shame when it comes to the person who's using, and there's like healthcare that can be shameful towards or judgmental, but also at the same time, it sucks having somebody that's close to you in that situation. How do you deal with your own emotions when you know exactly what he's doing? You know you can't stop it. You know that it's destroying your life, but you also know that there's the factor of shame and blame and all that. Like, how did you manage that?
I don't even know. I don't know. I don't know if I could even say that I managed it. Like our life was in shambles. It was in shambles. And then my family had no idea, like no idea. We live around one relative of my great aunt and uncle raised me, and my great uncle is still alive. And that's the only person we lived around. His parents live about an hour away from us. So they were kind of cushioned. And then also it was like during COVID. So it was easy to hide, you know what I mean? Because no one was there, like no one was around each other. So, but he would even lie to his parents and like say that, like I spent his whole paycheck. And so he would try to get, money from yeah.
You jerk.
Yes, I know. And it's like so weird, like being angry with somebody, especially now, like after they're gone, like being angry at somebody that you still like love and miss like dearly and are like grieving over, but still angry with them because you're still having to deal with the mess that they left you with. So it's hard. And so I don't know that I can say I managed it.
You just were surviving.
Yeah. Enduring. I didn't even feel like I was surviving. I felt like I was just enduring. Like I was just like enduring it. Yeah.
So here's a question that I think a lot of people ask when they're on the outside of these situations is why didn't you just kick him to the curb? Why did you put up with that?
That had been done to him a lot in his life. Like a lot of people have given up on him in his life and turned their back on him when he wasn't perfect. And I just wasn't going to be another person to do that to him too. And also he was such a different person. Like I've dealt with a lot of, different, people in my life including myself that have been in addiction, and not that any one drug is worse or better than the other, but there is just something about opiate addiction that, I mean, it makes you act like a completely different person, not like a different version of yourself, like literally a completely different person. Like I used to tell him, I feel like you came into my home and killed my husband, and now you just like set up shop, and now I have to like play house with you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, can you imagine like if that really happened, like how horrifying that would be?
It's like a sci-fi movie or something.
Yeah, like the Body Snatchers or something. Like, and that's what it felt like. Like in the mornings before he would use initially, like I would see him, like he would be him for like a second. Like I always told him heroin dimmed his light. It dimmed his light. His eyes, his sparkling blue eyes that I loved so much would go like dull and gray. And so in the morning, sometimes before he would use, I would be like, oh, hi, husband, and I'd get about 10 or 15 minutes with him. And then I'd be like, oh, bye, husband. And that's it. Yeah, bye. There goes. And so it was such like a contrast between the man that I fell in love with and the man I married and to the man that he was. It was almost like a disconnect. So I knew he was in there somewhere, and I was just hoping that one day he would come out of it, or that, you know what I mean? Like, and so I was just like, our good times were so good. Like we were so good together that that's what carried me through. I think it was just the good times because they were so good. When we were good, we were so good.
I think it's so easy for people on the outside to look at that and just be like, well, what's the problem? And you're like, no, like we had a life together and I loved him, and, I had hope for him. And it's just hard to parse that out. And it's really easy to be judgmental about it without having any idea what it's like to live.
Right. Even now, things are changing now. Like addiction is so widespread. Like you'd be hard pressed now to find somebody who had any kind of anybody that they were close to or loved that has not struggled with addiction. Usually nowadays 9 times out of 10 somebody has, there's somebody in their life that they were close to that struggles. I mean, not everybody, but it's better than it was. I think the stigma, but it's still really bad.
What ultimately ended up happening to Tyler? Tell us what happened.
Talked him into going to rehab like the July before, and he only stayed long enough to go to detox. November of last year. We had, we had already like kind of closed down our grow, and we had like a camper, like a fifth wheel camper that we had stayed in out there on site for security purposes. And we had, I remodeled it and sold it. And this money was supposed to go towards some debts that he had, built out. It was like, it was like my last like lifesaver, attempt to like get us out of this hole. And he stole all the money. He stole all of the money and he took off, and he went to Oklahoma City and was up in some sleazy hotel. And he blew it all on drugs and gambling. And so I was like that. And then he wanted to come home. So I was like, absolutely not. This is it. Like, you have got to go to rehab. Like, you have to go. And you can't come home until you do. So he was like, okay, I'll do it. And talk about a whole nother tangent. So we I told him, call different, I'm not going to do it for you. Call different rehabs. And so we looked up like rehabs, like for veterans and stuff like that. And we got in touch with this one place, and they were like, oh, well, we don't have any beds here, but our sister location in West Palm Beach, Florida has open beds. And they sent us this video of this amazing looking like West Palm Beach estate with like, spa like amenities and state of the art facilities. And they'll put them on a plane the next day. And it just seemed like, a dream come true. And I was almost kind of jealous, to be honest with you, at first. And that turned out to be a whole nightmare. Apparently they do these insurance schemes down in Florida of these sober living houses or these, facilities. And they were charging our VA insurance $4,350 a day.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that's like a whole other thing that's currently being investigated, because he ended up, they put him in a detox, and he was like actually really motivated. Like, he really was. It wasn't like I was forcing him to go. Like, he was really, it's the first time I had ever heard him put his whole heart into it, like before. And he was ready to stay down there. He was like, once I get to, after I do the program, get into sober living, I'm going to find a job, and then you guys can come down here. Like, he was like done with Oklahoma and, the people, places, and things that he had, been around before. And so he was really, really like motivated about it. And they totally let him down. He went from just like a couple days in detox, and he was supposed to go to like a secured facility, like hospital, partial hospitalization, 28-day program. And they put him in some apartment with these other people that could come and go as they please, that had cell phones. And it was just like this sleazy apartment. He said, yeah, it's like Section 8 housing type of situation. And then everyone started getting COVID, and they were going to just lock him down in the room, in the apartment with these sick people. And he ended up like escaping, basically. Like, he just called an Uber. And he left his wallet at the facility, because the facility wasn't even on site. It was like miles down the road, and they had to bus him in. It was a mess. So he left early. He left like 2 weeks early. And so I had to go pick him up at the airport. But he was him again. When I came and got him at the airport, he was him again. And he looked so good, and he looked so different, and he had missed me so much. And, we had actually, like, that was by far the longest we had ever been apart, like by leaps and bounds. I think the most we had ever been apart is like 5 days before that. And he was gone almost 6 weeks. I had him for 11 days. His first day back, one of his friends brought him, they're these blue pills that they call Roxy's, but they're not, they're fentanyl pills. And so I caught him doing that the first day, and he admitted it to me. He's like, I'm sorry, I did it, And then I think he had gotten some heroin from somebody else. And then on the 8th, only made one phone call that day. And he was messaging this person, and they said that they had some like white China heroin, and they brought it to him and left it in the mailbox. And we had just been laying in bed all day, kind of just having a lazy Saturday. And, we had kind of been bickering a little bit, like in the days leading up to that, because I knew he had relapsed so quickly after being in rehab for 6 weeks. But for some reason that day, we just didn't fight at all. We didn't have any arguments. We were just kind of like snuggling and cuddling and watching the Bob Ross documentary on Netflix. I got up to go to the store to get him a pack of cigarettes. And I came back maybe 20 minutes later and he was on the floor in my bathroom. Tyler had a lot of issues, and he had struggled. He did some like attention seeking behavior before where he made me think he was in distress. I walked in there and I was like, really? Like, I thought he was playing. And I was like, come on, like, this is crazy. Like, get up. And I even took a picture of him thinking like, okay, that'll make him like, oh, don't take pictures of me, or, because I'd always tell him like, okay, I'm going to go get the Narcan, or I'm going to call 911, and he'd, miraculously, what come out of it or whatever. But before he went to rehab, he had taken one of those blue, like I think a half of one of those blue pills, and he was like turning blue. And so I had to use not one, but 2 Narcans on him. And that was the first time I had ever had to administer Narcan to him. And it was scary. And then I don't know if you know anything about Narcan, but when you give an opiate addict a life-saving dose of Narcan, they thank you by going berserk on you because it throws them into hardcore withdrawals. Like immediately they're sober. Like, and it's they come up swinging basically. And so I told him, I was like, I will never do that again. Like it was so bad. So I had used both doses of Narcan before he went to rehab. So the night that, he eventually died, I didn't have any Narcan. So I kind of walked away from him, and I'd always told him, don't be the boy that cried wolf. Don't be the boy that cried wolf. And we were remodeling our kitchen at the time. So I was kind of messing with the countertops. And then I just kind of thought about it, like, well, what if it's not, like, what if he's not playing this time, because I thought like every other time we'd been fighting or, because he wanted attention, but we hadn't fought that day. I called 911. The firemen got here really fast. And then the police showed up, and I was like, wow, this is a lot more serious than I thought, and that's when I kind of lost it the first time I lost it. From there, we went to the hospital, the doctor, and sat down, and I kind of just composed myself. He just said, I promise you, I did everything in my power to save your husband. And, they worked on him for like 35 minutes, 45 minutes almost.
Did you understand at that moment exactly what had happened, or did you have to wait until they did the toxicology type things to understand what actually caused his death?
I didn't know at the time that it was fentanyl, but I did find out before I waited for toxicology, and thank goodness, because toxicology took 8 months. So because of COVID. Yes.
So this is interesting because it brings 2 conversations forward. Number one, being the widow of somebody who died from drugs can bring stigma with it, I'm sure. And so let's talk about that. And then also, fentanyl is really becoming a huge problem. So let's talk about your experience as a widow from a drug overdose. How has that been?
Sometimes in some situations when people ask me, like, I almost pause at first. I'm really big on, the awareness factor. I kind of, in the stages of grief, I kind of jump to finding purpose, like just right off the bat, like the new one, the finding purpose. So I use every opportunity I can to talk about it because I think it's important, because I take pride in being usually like the most informed person in the room. And the whole thing about the Florida insurance scam that I was totally clueless about. And then this whole fentanyl thing was just like a slap in the face because I was so naive to all of it. And so I use every opportunity I can, but there's a huge stigma. And I think in our town in particular, there had been fentanyl deaths all the way to the previous July, but nobody was talking about it. And because they're shamed that these people were drug addicts, and so no one wants to talk about that's how they died. But it's important to talk about it because it's important that people know you can die from this. It doesn't, and it's been happening since like 2015, like on the coasts and on other parts of the country. And we were all just sitting here in Oklahoma and just totally clueless about it, and he knew about it because I remember him telling me that somebody had fentanyl, and he was like, no, that stuff's scary. Like, like just a grain of salt of it can kill you. And so he never did it. But he was lied to, about it, about what it was. So it's not regular fentanyl. right? It's illicit fentanyl. So it's not the stuff you get in out of pharmacies. It's not, because they give it to people who have cancer or like really, or like terminal illnesses, but it's not even that fentanyl. It's illicit fentanyl that they believe is the precursors are being shipped from China to these clandestine chemist cartel labs in Mexico. And they're synthesizing it there. And it's coming over in powder form. It's coming over as pressed pills, which are the easiest to get, to transport. And they're coming over by the ton. And it's flooding everywhere. There's a group on Facebook called the Lost Voices of Fentanyl, and they've partnered with the DEA on this campaign that they've done called One Pill Can Kill. It's not just one pill can kill. I mean, he thought he was getting heroin. I know people that it's in cocaine, it's in meth, it's even in weed. There's a group on Facebook. There's a woman on one of the Facebook groups that I'm in whose fiance bought weed off the street and there was fentanyl in it. He died. He ended up dying like 7 days later in the hospital. Like it's scary. It's really, really scary.
Can I just ask a really dumb question really
Yeah.
quickly? I don't know a lot about this. I mean, we actually have people in our group whose partners have died of fentanyl, and some of them have talked to us privately about it and aren't willing to be open about it. And so it's, it's out there, and it's really sad. It's really awful. But do people seek out fentanyl?
Yes. So they do. And that's, so even within the fentanyl, survivors groups that I'm in, I'm one of the only spouses. They're by the vast majority mothers. And there's even stigma within those groups where, they all claim that their babies, this was their first time they ever did drugs. And, they just got a pill because they just wanted to get some sleep, and they just got this fentanyl pill and, and this horrible thing. And, and that is the case with some of these people. But if you were a drug addict, there's like, oh, you don't want to say that they were a habitual drug user or that. But then there's even groups that they literally know that it's fentanyl and they go out and they seek out fentanyl, or that's the only thing that's available. But it doesn't matter, right? Like, it doesn't matter if that was the first time they ever did a pill and they didn't know, or if they thought they were getting one drug and it ended up being fentanyl and they killed them, or even if they literally went out and sought out fentanyl. The point is, none of these people deserved a death sentence. And that's what fentanyl is. It's a death sentence.
I'm just so confused by it, because this is like going to be the dumbest thing to say, but as a business model, I don't see how it's a good business model for like drug dealers. So I try and wrap my head. Yeah. I try and wrap my head around why would you lace things with that's going to kill people? And I still don't think I understand fully, except for it's got to be highly addictive. And so people will want it again. But if you kill the people, then they don't come back for more drugs. So I just really can't. I mean, it just seems like an evil thing.
It's almost like counterproductive, right?
Yeah. So people are just being like assholes, which is not even a strong enough word, right? It's like terrible. Yeah. It's like they're like serial killers with drugs, kind of a thing, like no souls.
I think it's because it's cheaper. So you can cut your drugs with it. It's highly addictive. So it'll make you an addict faster, like that. So there's that, the cheaper, the highly addictiveness of it. And I think, I don't know, that's exactly what I said. It's like, what a business model is that, to kill all your clientele? But I mean, I don't know that they're necessarily aware. I watched some documentary where this woman is undercover, went deep into the cartels and was literally interviewing a cartel chemist. And she said, well, do you know that, that it's killing these people in the States by these huge numbers? And he was like, oh, well, no, not mine. We mark ours a certain way, and anything that we make is safe. It's not, it's meticulously weighed and measured and all this stuff. And I don't know if if they really believe that, or if it's just if the numbers just end up making more sense. But I know it's because of the highly addictiveness of it and how cheap it is to cut your product with it.
Somebody that I know who used to do drugs, what's the word? I don't know. Who used to be a habitual drug user. And I don't know if this is true or not. But I think that he was saying that some people don't even realize that you have to measure fentanyl differently than you do other things. And so if they measure it the same way as something else, it's like there's so much more of it too in what they're cutting. So, and I don't know anything about making drugs, obviously, but what a dangerous thing. I saw a thing on the news today where it had come over inside of coconuts, and they showed all these things on the news, like just these, the DEA had like, found the stuff, and it's just like 300 coconuts or something inside are fentanyl. It's insane.
It's just like like you said, with the prisoners, how like inventive they are. That's the same thing with drug smugglers. I mean, and I think there's like an old saying that's like, if you want to get a dirty bomb into America, just hide it in the cocaine. And that's how you get it into America. Because the drug smugglers are so good at what they do. But what's scary is like, so when I did finally get toxicology back, that's all they found in his system was fentanyl. And I know for a fact that he had purchased what he thought was black tar heroin that week. And because I found baggies, but he didn't test positive for heroin. So that means even the heroin's not heroin anymore. It's just burnt Dr. Pepper with vinegar and fentanyl in it.
I'm learning so much right now.
I know, me too. Wow. What do we even do with all this information? Like how does this stuff go about being changed? It's such a huge problem, global problem.
I don't know how to stop people from using drugs, but I think the thing that we can focus on is helping them survive overdoses. You know what I mean? Like, because every time someone survives an overdose, that's another chance they get at them deciding to come to get clean, because they're the only ones who can do it. You can't make anybody get clean. It's a decision that they have to make on their own. And so every time someone can survive, that Narcan is available and it can save a life. And that's just one more chance at them, deciding to go get help and making a treatment plan work for them that time. And so I think that's where the focus needs to be at, is awareness for first-time drug users to just know, like, I mean, we should be scaring the shit out of our kids right now. Like, you know what I mean? Like exposure. Like they need to know like how scary this is, because it's scary. And so, I think that's a good focus is on first-time users to never, ever use anything, because it's literally in everything. And then, to the ones that, like seek out fentanyl, safe injection sites, that some places are doing, or, having Narcan vending machines everywhere, giving out Narcan at any place that sells hypodermic needles, pharmacies like that. Like that's, I think, where the only thing really that we could do as a non-user, to try to empower addicts to, get help and, one day get clean. So I think that's where the focus probably needs to be on, is just awareness and availability of Narcan and other life-saving resources.
That's what's so scary about it too, is that they're trying to make these pills masquerade as other things, and sometimes not even as narcotics or illicit drugs, as like normal over-the-counter type Tylenols, or even they make them look like candy. And I just think it's just like such a bizarre world we live in now. You sent us some really interesting like statistics about.
Yeah.
Tell us about those.
So right now, fentanyl is the number one killer of people, period.
Wow.
The number one killer of people, like I think 15 to 55, more than cancer, more than heart attacks, more than car accidents, more than murder. It's the number one killer of people.
Wow.
So yeah. And I know there's certain lobby groups that are trying to get it listed as a weapon of mass destruction. That's how bad it is. I think the DEA, I think it's like 107,000 deaths related to overdose of one kind or another. 67% of those are fentanyl related. Yeah, 107,375 people in the United States died of drug overdose and drug poisoning in the 12-month period between ending in January of 2022. 67% of those deaths involved synthetic opioids like fentanyl. So, and it says it's mixed with cocaine, methamphetamine, heroin, and a lot of people don't even know, that it's in there. Like I know that there was people that are addicted to methamphetamine that were going to the ER because they thought they were dying. And they go, and the doctors are like, there's nothing wrong with you. Well, they were detoxing from fentanyl, but they had no idea they'd even taken it.
They're lucky though, because they're still alive and they didn't get killed from it. So
I know there was some teachers in a town next, a couple towns over, about an hour away from here, that drank bong water from, I guess, a meth bong, and one of them died instantly, and the other one was on life support for about 3 days before she died.
Oh my gosh.
I don't want to be in this world anymore. Let's go. Let's go to an island somewhere with no coconuts.
No,
coconuts.
There's gonna be in the coconuts. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well, Cerina, I am really thankful for you for being really open about this. And I just want to kind of put it out there that the people who we interact with in the Widow Wives Club and who reach out to us, you can be honest about that without us having any sort of judgment against that. I think that's a really hard thing because it does come with this stigma of, well, you chose it and so you deserve it. And that's just not the case, right? And we will value your people no matter what decisions they made. All of us make dumb decisions. Some of them are just lead to our death and some of them just don't, and so it's not like we get to sit on our little high horse and be like, well, he deserved it because he made those choices. So I just want to put that out there in a like, no.
Yeah, they none of them deserve it's a death sentence for being addicted to drugs. Like, and at this point, more and more law enforcement agencies are treating this. In Oklahoma, it's in the murder statutes in Oklahoma, and they can be charged with first-degree murder. And in fact, there is a current investigation going on related to Tyler's. So yeah, it's a big deal now. It's like at this point, it's not a secret anymore. You can't claim ignorance. And so if you get caught selling it, like, I'm sorry, you deserve everything that happens to you, and something should happen to you. And that's where the police department here, they found the hypodermic needle, and they were like, oh, our job's done here. Nothing to see here. And in fact, they asked me at the hospital if I wanted an autopsy, and I was like, absolutely, I want an autopsy. And the funeral home told me, okay, well, if you want to have a viewing and he's being autopsied, you have to embalm. And I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. Well, apparently, because they included that syringe that they found they told a medical examiner about it. They were like, oh, drug overdose, no need for an autopsy. And I wasn't aware of it until I got the toxicology report 8 months later after he had been cremated. But the funeral home did, because they received his body. And instead of saying like, oh, by the way, he hasn't been autopsied, do you still want us to embalm? They just went ahead and charged me for embalming him anyways. And had they brought it to my attention, I would have said, the medical examiner needs to come get him, and they need to embalm, or they need to autopsy him. Because now, even though the local PD didn't want to pick up the case, I wrote to, and this is another thing I really wanted to talk about, because a lot of people have a hard time getting their families' deaths investigated as a murder or as a crime. And so I wrote to the DA here, and I also wrote to the Attorney General of Oklahoma, and I included pictures of Tyler and his family to let them know, like, hey, he's a person. He's missed, he's loved, and he's not just some junkie, faceless and nameless that no one will miss. And, I'm not going to let him go out like this. Like, you guys, you know what I mean? And so I sent pictures of Tyler to humanize him to them. I wrote, and, a lot of people say, don't write a very long one because they won't read it. I wrote 4 pages worth of stuff to them. And they finally did something about it. Like they had we have a District 22 drug and violent crimes task force investigator that got involved. The Attorney General also wanted to get involved. And so I was prepared to be the squeaky wheel, and I was not going to stop until somebody cared. I just wanted somebody to care about Tyler's life like the way I did. And so I didn't stop. I was prepared to wrap my car and get a bullhorn and circle City Hall if I had to.
Chain yourself to a tree.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the way that change is made. Like, you have to make a ruckus if you want to do it from the bottom up, because it's never going to come from the top down.
Yeah, never. And so they finally did. But now there's so many things that could have been done if they would have treated my house like a crime scene when they arrived. I had security cameras, but that was the last thing I was thinking of at the time, but they could have taken the security tapes. They could have done an autopsy. And so and so a lot of people they don't know where to start or where to go, and just write letters. Like, don't stop, like, let them know that these people matter, and that their deaths were not just negligent, overdoses. they're being killed by drug dealers and ultimately by these cartels.
So, Cerina, you unfortunately are thrown into this advocacy position because of being a widow due to drug overdose or the fentanyl stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like double duty, widow and the fentanyl situation. If somebody is listening to us and is like, oh, thank you so much for talking about this. I'm not one that would want to share my story, maybe on a podcast, but I do want to help. Are you like gathering people? Do you have a site? Do you have an email? Do you have something where somebody can contact you so you guys can band together?
Yeah, absolutely. I have in the process of doing it like a nonprofit. It's called Westbound. Tyler's middle name was West. So it's the website is westboundok.org. And there's like an email contact list there. I also had a Justice for Tyler Boehrer Facebook page, my Facebook page. So any of those ways are, ways that you could contact me. I also do work with the Drug-Induced Homicide Foundation of Oklahoma. And they do rallies all the time, and they're based out of Tulsa. So that's also, I sent you guys links to all that stuff. So the lady who runs that program is just absolutely amazing. And she does a lot of like feet on the ground, grassroots type of rallies. They go to like the state capitol. I know the Lost Voice in the Fentanyl, they just did this huge thing with the DEA. So there's ways to actually feel like you're doing something. And that's probably what helped me the most. Like it's kept me busy. It kept me mad. It's so much easier to be mad than it is to be sad. And so I kind of got angry about it. And so it's kept me busy. It's kept me distracted.
It's giving you fuel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because today's Tyler's birthday too, by the way.
Oh,
yeah. Happy dead birthday.
His 35th birthday. So yeah.
We will link to all of those things that you sent to us. It's really fascinating, and it's kind of eye-opening and also a little scary. And like I said, I want to run away to somewhere where there are no other people.
Or coconuts.
Or coconuts.
Yeah, we'll link to that in our show notes. So any of you who would like to contact Cerina or be aware of her foundation's work, you will have access to that. Man, Cerina, I'm so sorry.
Oh, thank you.
And also you're amazing. So keep it up. I know it's hard work and it's like tireless.
Yeah.
Cerina, we have one question that we like to wrap up with, but it's kind of...
It's so not as serious.
Yeah. All right, Cerina, what is your favorite cheese? Please tell us.
Munster.
Munster
cheese. Yes, I love it.
Spell
Interesting.
It. Can you spell
M-U?
it?
It's M-U-N. I think M-U-N, yeah.
M-U-E-N, I think.
Is it?
I don't know. Let me Google it.
I know it's M-U. I know that much.
One is the movie, The Munsters, and one is the cheese.
M-U-E-N.
S-T-E-R?
Yeah. Muenster.
Havarti is a close second.
Yeah, those those are a little bit related.
Do you like regular Havarti or dill Havarti?
Regular.
Okay.
Regular. It's creamer.
Okay.
So Tyler was he went to culinary school. So and he loved charcuterie platters.
Oh.
And he would take any opportunity to order one off a menu. So for his celebration of life, I made a gigantic grazing table with all the cheeses and all the meats and all that stuff. And then gushers, because he loved gushers.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Cerina, thank you so much for joining us today and just being open and honest and just talking really candidly with us. We really appreciate that. Make sure you check out the Widow Wives Club if you want to be able to interact with other people who might be in your same situation. It's on Facebook. It's a really great group. Just make sure you answer all the questions. If you're interested in keeping the podcast going, check out our Patreon. It's patreon.com/WWDN.
If you'd like to buy us tacos, go to buymeacoffee.com/widowwedonoww.
And until we get to talk to you again, I'm Anita.
I'm Mel.
I'm Cerina.
And we are just two young widows and a widow on a mission. And we're all just trying to figure out, widow,
We
do.
Ow.
This is my favorite thing to discuss with you.
Tell me, what is it?
One of my favorite things. I do enjoy tacos and cheese and dogs. This is about how you cannot pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars for a phone plan, especially when you're a widow, your person is dead, you might have kids, you might need another option, and you just want your phone to work, you want unlimited texting and service, and you want it to be like $25 a month.
It blows my mind that they have plans that start at $15 a month. That is so cheap. And the cool thing is it uses other 5G networks. And so you don't have to pay extra for that. And you still get great service.
Yep. Anita and I have traveled all over and I have used my phone. So I highly recommend it. And my mom's even on it. When my dad died, we put his phone down to the cheapest plan, which is $15 a month. And I think my mom's on the $20 a month plan, and it's so worth it. It's so much cheaper than what we were all paying before. So I highly recommend it if you're on a budget or not. Who cares? Ryan Reynolds is in charge of the company, and they send you free stickers with Ryan Reynolds temporary tattoos. It's kind of the best. So if somebody wants to sign up, what can they do, Anita?
Go to trymintmobile.com/WWDN. Seriously, you guys. Such a great idea. Save yourself some money.
And if you're worried about losing data or having any changes with your phone, not going to happen. They walk you through it. Everything's fine. It's the easiest process of all time. Again, that's
trymintmobile.com/WWDN.